Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Well, Betsy stole my first line. I was going to tell you what my talk title was, but she did that already. So I guess what I want to say is, wow, I'm so happy to be back with you. I long for the day when we can really do this in the flesh. But in the meantime, this is a pretty good substitute, friends. What a pleasure to serve you. What a pleasure to be part of the energy that is the Unity Church of Rochester. Without any commute stories. You all know those. As I said, my talk title today is Staying the Course with Vigor, 8 words that make it so. Well, what's the course? Well, that's very simple. It's our own life. It's my life, your life, the person you're sitting next to, the fellow across the street. It's unfolding day by day, hour by hour. And by staying the course with Vigor, we stay on it. We stay on it. Life unfolds day by day. We look to the future. We experience and remember the past. But friends, the only now moment that we have is right now. Okay, that one's gone already. And while I'm pausing, the next one came and went as well. That is the way our life unfolds. It unfolds minute by minute, day by day. I looked up the word vigor in Charles Fillmore's Revealing Word, one of my favorite books. You're aware of that. And I didn't find vigor. But on the last page of the book, for those of you who would like to know, which is page 216, zeal. And one other word are on this last page. First one is zeal, and there are 1, 2, 3 paragraphs. And the last one is zone, spiritual. And I thought, yeah, if we are filled with zeal, we are in the spiritual zone. So let us see what Fillmore had to say. He calls it intensity, ardor, enthusiasm, the inward fire of the soul that urges humankind onward, regardless of the intellectual mind of caution and conservatism. You know what? I experience zeal sometimes with a bag of potato chips. The inward caution says you really don't need that, but the zeal said, yeah, but it's going to taste so good. I'm not talking about that kind of zeal. I'm talking about the kind of zeal, the kind of energy that motivates us to think beyond what is. Not just what is, but what could be, what might be, what perhaps in the mind of God, the infinite one, already exists, but has not yet trickled down to our vision. He continues. He says, zeal is the mighty force that incites the winds, the tides, the storms. It urges the planet on its course and spurs the ant to greater exertion. I had to stop with that one because at one point in my living in my residence in Ypsilanti, every spring I would have this little cluster of ants that would somehow come up from under the concrete in my garage. I wasn't happy with them. But as Fillmore says, had I observed them closely and carefully, I would have seen their industriousness and I would have found a good reason to pay attention. He goes on and says, it is the urge behind all things. Zeal is the affirmative impulse of existence. Its command is go forward. I like to think of the old joke about Theodore Roosevelt, who at one of his famous battles, it was, what did he say at the bottom of the hill? He said, charge. Some people have said that when they put out their credit card. Not that kind of charge. Charge as in take on the task and go forward. Go forward. Be ready. Be ready for what God offers us. So what we're doing when we're staying the course with Vigor is actually utilizing one of our capabilities, which we call the 12 powers. They are capabilities, they're potentialities, they are anything we wish to define them as. They are intrinsic to who we are. It is the very nature of us to be zealous, to be able to engage with zeal. So I'd like us to consider a story of a journey. The story is from Scripture. Actually, it is in Genesis chapter 6. Well, it goes 9. This section I'm going to read now is 9 to 22. This is the line of Noah. Noah was a righteous man. He was blameless in his age. Noah walked with God. Noah begot 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth became corrupt before God. The earth was filled with lawlessness. When God saw how corrupt the earth was, for all flesh had corrupted its way on earth, God said to Noah, I have decided to put an end to all flesh, for the earth is filled with lawlessness because of them. I am about to destroy them with the earth. In other words, I'm going to get rid of the people and the earth too, because they're not following my word. They're not following my instructions. They're behaving like a bunch of twerps, which is a polite word for disorganized behavior, dysfunctional behavior. And so it goes on. It said, make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make it an ark with compartments and cover it inside and out with pitch. This is how you shall make it. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, its width 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. Make an opening. Oh, dear. Hold on, friends. Sorry. That was a little technical challenge right there. Hold on. We're back. Wait a minute. I need to make an adjustment here. Okay. Sorry about that. Where was I? Well, that's part of the journey of life, folks. You have unexpected events all the time. Make an opening for daylight in the ark and terminate it within a cubit of the top. Put the entrance to the ark in its side and make it with a bottom, second, and a third deck. That's very interesting. My first thought was gopher wood. I've never heard of a gopher tree. And so I looked up the footnotes in the translation I'm using, and I love it. It says, verse 14, gopher wood, a species still unidentified. And I thought, okay, it's probably a species that has become extinct. But then I also thought about the word gopher. Busy little creatures, industrious little creatures. They run around everywhere. They get into all kinds of things. They never miss an opportunity to be present to their gopher life. And I thought, I don't know what gopher wood is, but I know what a gopher is. It is something that carries on. It's a creature that is filled with zeal. I also looked at this and I thought, and you need some information here. A cubit is about 18 inches. So about a yard and a half. Now, the overall tonnage of the ark was 40,000 tons. And what my notes tell me is that this is a good-sized modern ship, similar to a modern passenger ship. Can you imagine the people of the ancient world looking at something like this? Can you imagine Noah when he heard the voice which said to him, build an ark, and here's the dimensions? I know a number of years ago there was a funny movie but I can't remember it. But the first thing I would have thought of, are you kidding? You want me to build a ship that's that big when all I've got is a few simple tools? So this story, friends, is really a good one, because what happens here is the question to ask, what is this ark? What is this ark, and what is its purpose? Now, what the story has said so far, and I find it a little vague when the notes here say that lawlessness and corruption translate as violence. Well, we do know that the ancient world was a violent place. But if we look at it metaphysically, which is how unity always looks at scripture, it's when we are not adhering to the harmony of the world which a divine order establishes, we know that we can trust in the world, we can trust in God's presence, and that harmony and divine order is there. But every so often, we see things that are totally out of order. They are not in harmony. I'm thinking of the Great War, which was World War I, the war to end all wars. And then what? Less than 20 years later, we have another war. We look at the catastrophes that we see. We see earthquakes. We see floods. We see climate change. We see the disorder in our relationships. And very, very closely, right in our faces, we are in the midst of the disorder of a pandemic. So this statement of staying the course with vigor, we have to understand that this is our life. This is how it unfolds. It's not always vanilla ice cream with chocolate sauce on top, or some other variant if that's your preference. It is looking at real life. So the ark, what is the ark? Or maybe I should say, who is the ark? Because friends, we are both. We are both the ark, which is the vehicle, and we are the people on it. The ark represents our bodily incarnation, our existing, not just in the realm of the absolute, just in the mind of spirit, but in this, on this human planet, on this planet, in a human form. We got hands and feet and arms and what have you. That's the ark. And then within us, we have something even more amazing. It doesn't say it in this Old Testament, but it is the message of the teacher Jesus, who has come to us much later and has said, what is in the ark? Noah, his wife, his sons, their wives, and two of every kind of living thing on the earth. Let me continue for a moment. God is speaking and says, for my part, I am about to bring the flood, waters upon the earth, to destroy all flesh under the sky, in which there is breath of life. Everything on earth shall perish. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall enter the ark with your sons, your wives, and your sons' wives. That's entering the ark, friends, which is our community. Not only are we the ark as individuals, our community is the ark. And all that lives, all flesh, you'll take two of everything, male and female, from birds of every kind, cattle of every kind, every creepy crawly thing, two of everything. For your part, take everything that is eaten and stored away to serve as food for you and for them. And it says in verse 22, Noah did so just as God commanded him. Did he do? Isn't this interesting? God has given us a warning. I'm going to make a real mess here. I'm going to get rid of everything. And in the interim, during this trauma, you are going to be secure. You are going to be in this ark. And that is the message that we take from our unity teachings. We are that ark, and we are in the ark. Because every time we say there is only one power and one presence in the universe, God the good, omnipotent, we are not just speaking of God, we are speaking of ourselves. And very often many of us continue and say, this one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am an individualized expression of this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am ever one with this one. So the ark is the oneness of God. We are in that oneness. And through God's presence in each one of us, we are together. I know we've seen a lot of signs in parking lots that say we're better together. And that is the truth, friends. We are better together, recognizing our oneness in God, recognizing the universality, not just of our humanity, but of our divinity, regardless of creed, color, race, shape, form. We are all made in the image and likeness of God, as it says in Genesis 1:26. So we look at this and we're thinking, wow, that's a task. And one day, these words came to me. They just really did. I am grateful to God that I have experiences like this. And it was 8 little words. The first 2 are suit up. S-U-I-T, suit up. We'll talk more about that. The second 2 words are show up. S-H-O-W-U-P. And the last one is do what comes up. Do what comes up. This is both an interior process and an exterior process. The exterior process is pretty simple, folks. It's very basic and it's very simple. So let's look at the outer first, because that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to do when we're done with this talk, or we're going to start tomorrow morning. Suit up means get out of bed every morning and get dressed. May I repeat? Get out of bed every morning and get dressed. Doesn't matter how tired you are, how bad you feel. Get out of bed and get dressed. Okay, we have little excuses for this. One of mine is what I call a genius day in bathrobe. That means I fool myself into thinking that I have gotten dressed by taking off my bedroom slippers and putting on regular shoes with which I could walk around outside. But I never get out of my bathrobe. And I call it a genius day in bathrobe. And the only person I'm fooling is me. So I've stopped that. I get dressed. And that's what I'm saying to us. Get out of bed and get dressed every morning. Now, to those of you who are suffering great illness, or who are in grief, or who are in some other form of dire spiritual, physical circumstances, in some way, put something on that alters your perception of yourself. So the first 2 words and the first action is suit up. The second 2 words are show up. Show up. Boy, what does show up mean? It says turn up wherever you are supposed to be that day. Well, what if I'm retired? What if I'm not working anymore? What if I'm on vacation? What if? Folks, wherever you are supposed to be is whatever you have to do that day. It can be simple as making coffee in the kitchen. So you suit up and you show up in the kitchen and you make coffee. Maybe a little bit later, it's going for gas. So you suit up, get in the car, drive to the gas station, pump gas. Maybe it is going to work. Maybe it's going to a place. Or maybe like this morning, it's suiting up. Okay, I've suited up. I'm in my living room and I'm on Zoom. Wow. We didn't used to work like that, folks. Certainly not the first year or so in which I was experiencing my wonderful, wonderful relationship to Unity Church of Rochester. I would suit up, that's for sure. And then I would get in the car and drive forever, which was okay, but it's an interesting trip. I've seen the sun come up a lot of different ways. And I would get to a place and I would stand behind a podium and then I would greet people. I mean, I could put my hand out, folks, and I can touch the screen, but that isn't going to do anything for the need for touch, for the need for human communication with the flesh. And yet, it's what I am destined to do today. To show up means to appear at the scene so that you are there for the God moment. Because if you're not there, you're going to miss it. You might miss it. It might not come around again. So it's suit up, show up. And then the last 4 words are do what comes up. Do what comes up. So I'll give you some very graphic examples from life. If the cat throws up on the bedspread, clean it up. Clean it up. Don't scream at the cat. That's ineffective. They look at you like, what? What? I mean, I think it's cats who have perfected short-term memory loss. Like, I have no idea how that pile of yuck got on your bedspread. What are you even looking at me for? Those of you who have beloved 4-footed creatures, you know exactly what I'm talking about, friends. Do what comes up. Okay, that's a very simple and almost silly do what comes up. Perhaps you are called that day to the side of a friend who is ill, a friend who is in the process of making their transition. You are simply to be there as the godly presence in that moment. So we see here a full spectrum of the human experience, cleaning up kitty barf to sitting with one who is going into the next dimension of existence. And all that is required is that we be present, open and receptive to spirit. Do you ever have the experience you're driving, you're down the freeway, and you got to make a choice? Are you going to take 94? Are you going to take 96? You can take 696. Should you take Telegraph? You should take the Southfield. You know what I've started to do if I'm driving down the road and I'm thinking, well, I'm going to take 275. And the voice keeps saying, no, take the Southfield north. I take the Southfield. And inevitably, I discover it's because there's only one lane open on 275. Isn't that interesting? That's called intuition. And that is another gift of spirit. But again, we have to be willing. We have to be suited up. We have to show up. And we have to be willing to do what comes up. Whatever it is, we desire to be present to it. Okay, that's the exterior. That's it. Now, what do I mean by the interior? Suit up. Friends, we put on, I like to think of it this way, in medieval terms, we put on the armor of truth. We put on the armor of the words of our favorite teachers, whether we are in the Old Testament and it is Moses who is speaking to us, or we are in the New Testament and it is Jesus who is speaking to us, or we are in one of the epistles or one of the gospels or whatever, and we are listening. We clothe ourselves. One of our dearest hymns says, I clothe myself safely round with infinite love and wisdom. So suit up in the spiritual sense means we clothe ourselves within with the accoutrements of the presence of God. How do we finish our final prayer on Sunday? Wherever I am, God is, because God is within. That's the first step of the interior. It says, show up wherever you are supposed to be. What does that look like? That means each morning we say, okay, God, not what do you want me to do today, but what are we going to do today? You and I together. You as infinite source, infinite power, and myself as willingness and surrender, and the incarnated person in this environment who can be God's presence. When we say to one another, I behold the Christ in you, it isn't just a nice cliche, friends. It is a statement of truth about who we are. The Christ in me greets the Christ in thee. No matter what the other person looks like, we look at them and go, oh, that's God right there. Oh, how wonderful. And of course, the last one is do what comes up. So we are dressed in the armor of truth. We are willing. We are able to the presence of God within us, so that when the God moment appears, we are ready. We know what to say. We know what to do. Or we discern that our greatest gift is silence, or perhaps the touch of a hand, on a friend's hand, on a shoulder. Perhaps it is there to give a shoulder to be leaned upon. Suit up, show up, do what comes up. It's really not that hard, but, oh, there's always a but, isn't there? Yeah, there is. But friends, it requires three things. It requires three things. The first one is choose. In other words, make a choice. You know, the decision moment is often scary. We're often called to make a leap of faith when we don't feel prepared. Like, you know what? I'm not ready for this. Okay. Could we hold off on this a little bit? I need more training. I need more OJT. Whatever it is. No. There are times when we cannot allow a mind to talk us about what could be an amazing grace moment. We've all had an experience where we've done something, participated in something, observed something, and afterwards we went, wow, I could have missed that. Thank you, God, that I was present. Thank you, God, that I was present, that I was willing, and that you responded in me, through me, as me. So the first one is make a choice. Choose. The second thing that is required is that we risk. Risk. Not being disrespectful here, but it is a four-letter word. Risk. R-I-S-K. You know, it's like the joke where a person falls off the cliff and is holding on to this root that's part of this tiny, scraggly little shrub. He's going, help, 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 help. And the voice says, yes. I need help here. What should I do? And the voice says, let go. And the person holding on to the root says, is there anybody else up there? That wasn't the answer we wanted, friends. However, I found these words years and years and years ago. I'm going to hold them up, but I don't know if you, well, maybe you can read them. Maybe you can read them. And I'm going to read them. It says, "Come to the edge," life said. They said, "We're afraid." "Come to the edge," life said. They came. And it pushed them, and they flew. It pushed them, and they flew. It is like the mother whose child has been hit by a car and who leans down and picks up a fender, picks up the car to free her child underneath it. We don't know how. We know only that. Friends, we have within us the potential to fly. The potential to fly if we only believe. That is risk. The third thing that is required is faith. And we know what Fillmore has said about faith. The vision of things hoped for. The vision of things hoped for. I'm so glad I found this illustration. And I can't believe it was 33 years ago. Olympic diver Greg Louganis, those of us who watched back then remember this fellow. He hit his head on the springboard in the preliminary round of the 1988 Olympics. He came back to win a gold medal and be named Athlete of the Year. He took that challenge and turned it into a defining moment of activated faith. Friends, that's what it means when the phrase says leap and the net will appear. Suit up, show up, do what comes up. I want to go back to the rest of the story and finish with what happened to Noah. This is verse 15 of Genesis 8. God spoke to Noah saying, "Come out of the ark together with your wife, your sons, and your sons' wives. Bring out with you every living thing of all flesh that is with you, birds and animals and everything that creeps on earth. Let them swarm on the earth and be fertile and increase on earth." So Noah came out together with his family. Every animal, every creepy crawly, every bird, everything that stirs on the earth came out of the ark by families. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and taking a very clean animal and of every clean bird, he offered burnt offerings on the altar. The Lord smelled the pleasing odor, and the Lord said to himself, "Never again will I doom the earth because of man, since the devising of man's mind are evil from his youth. Not will I ever again destroy every living being as I have done. So long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease." God blessed Noah and his family, and he said to them, "Be fertile and increase and fill the earth. The fear and the dread of you shall be upon all the beasts of the earth and upon all the birds of the sky. Everything with which the earth is astir, and upon all the fish of the sea they are given into your hand. Every creature that lives shall be yours to eat as with the green grasses. I give you all these." So they floated around, and then Noah got another message. Come out. Come out. Come out with your family. Exit the vehicle of the ark, and now be that which was inside the ark. Be fruitful, multiply, increase the population of the earth, govern well the resources I have given you. There's our call for today, friends, which we need to examine. And I promise I will not destroy you again this way. Here is our confidence. Here is our faith, so that we may make that choice. We may take that risk. We operate from faith. Okay, it's a little late. It's 11:15. Most of us are already dressed. But tomorrow morning, friends, I invite you to suit up, show up, and do what comes up. Thank you, and God bless you.